From the heart of the Cape, welcome aboard to the Friday, September 19th edition of Barnstable Today. Hello once again, I'm Kevin Friel.
A proposal before the Town Council to open the Ruth Rusher Trust Hostel on Ocean Street in Hyannis tops our agenda today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Melissa Chartrand.
The concept put forth by the Ruth Rusher Trust proposes to renovate and in some cases expand the three buildings.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Council, for this opportunity to speak to you again regarding this proposed regulatory agreement. As I indicated last time, this is, the applicant is the estate of Ruth Rusher, and it involves property at 111 and 105 Ocean Street here in Hyannis. Ruth Rusher, as many of you are aware, was a longtime Hyannis native here, a social worker. In her later years, she was a tour guide and very active in town and civic affairs. In 2004, she created a trust, and as part of that trust, it provided on her death that the property at 111 and 105 Ocean Street be devised to the Cape Cod Foundation, a nonprofit corporation that many of you are familiar with here on the Cape, and we have representatives of the foundation here tonight if there's a question for them, and that the property be converted to use as a hostel. I was retained by the estate to assist them with permitting for the hostel, and upon an examination of the applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance, it was determined that while hotels are allowed in this particular district, and a hostel is fairly similar to a hotel in terms of its operation, it didn't neatly fit into any use category under the ordinance. And as a result, it was the opinion of the building commissioner and other regulatory officials here in town that we would need zoning relief for going forward on the hostel. We applied for a regulatory agreement to achieve that purpose, as we were encouraged to do in terms of which way to proceed on a regulatory basis. And we, pursuant to your local ordinance, met with the Planning Board and negotiated with the Planning Board the terms and conditions of a regulatory agreement to convert the four buildings that are on this site, the four existing historic buildings that are on this site, and to use those four buildings for the hostel operation. The only change in the buildings is a very modest 950 square foot addition to the back of Building A, which is the largest building at 115 Ocean Street. There is a small parking area that will be created. It is a pervious parking area of 13 parking spaces. The property has access on Ocean Street as well as Old Colony Boulevard. The Old Colony Boulevard access has been closed for some period of time. And those of you who went there, you'll see that there was a small fence in that area that is up that would be opened up pursuant to this regulatory agreement. The provisions of the regulatory agreement would provide that even if the council voted to authorize the manager to enter into this regulatory agreement, the operation of the hostel would still be subject to a license to be issued by the town manager and reviewed annually. So even if the authorization is given to the manager to proceed with the regulatory agreement, there is still a town licensing requirement that would occur on an annual basis. And it was thought by the Planning Board, with whom we negotiated, that given all the terms and conditions of the regulatory agreement, that annual review would be a good place to make sure that the conditions of the regulatory agreement were being observed. The regulatory agreement provides that we can have at the location up to 46 beds, 43 for guests and 3 for employees. And I say up to because there is still an issue as to how many beds we can have. There is a provision of the state sanitary code that's enforced by your Board of Health, which we need to address in terms of having an amount of square footage per bedroom, and we intend to address that with your Board of Health. Other hostels, my experiences around the state, and we gave this information to the Planning Board, have had success in applying to vote in favor of it. So we would welcome that if,
Okay.
if the
I
council
think
would
one
consider that.
of the sponsors would like to speak to this now. Councilor
Okay.
Tinsley?
Thank you very much, Madam President. I was waiting, hopefully, just to kind of summarize everything and try to get the last word in, which I don't do very often, but I was going to make that attempt. Just a couple quick things, because I am one of those that was just mentioned. I've stayed in hostels probably well in excess of 100 times. Never did I cavort around the building inebriated, make trouble, cause any issues. I think one of the problems is there's a popular commercial on TV right now that has a hostel on it. That's definitely not a youth hostel. The members that were staying in it would remove someone that was like that, bouncing around with their big stereo on their shoulder. One thing that, and it has been brought up, hosteling used to be a majority. Members are between 20 and 34, but 15%, 55 and older.
Also on last evening's Town Council agenda, 2 grants were accepted by the town. They were given by Elder Services of Cape Cod in the Islands.
Lynn Poyant, Director of Community Services, shares with us the details of those grants.
You want to just summarize it for us?
Good evening, councilors. Lynn Poyant, Director of Community Services for the town of Barnstable. Each year, we've been very fortunate that Elder Services has been providing the town of Barnstable with this grant for our Silver Express van, which provides transportation services for our seniors to various appointments throughout town, including medical appointments. And this helps to pay the salary of Judy Red, who's one of our outreach workers. She also services the senior services as our transportation coordinator, and the $6,000 supplements Judy's salary.
Okay, discussion, questions, concern from councilors? All those in favor of accepting this grant? Anybody opposed? Okay.
May be acted on, 2009-029, acceptance of a grant to the Barnstable Senior Center for a parenting grandparent support group from Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands, in the amount of $5,000.
Moved and seconded, and thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. This grant is actually for a brand new program, and the Community Services Department has been encouraging the different divisions within the department to work together. I'm happy to say that this is one of the first grants that we are presenting through Senior Services and the Youth Services Department. As you know, the American family is changing, how it's operating on a regular basis, and what we're experiencing now is that a lot of grandparents are taking care of their grandchildren because the parents are working multiple jobs. There's a variety of reasons why that's happening, and the grandparents are looking for some kind of support system. And through Elder Services, we've applied for this grant. We have a specialist who's going to be coming in as support outreach specialist by the name of Roseanne DeVito, who will come in to provide services to the grandparents. Sally Ann Imes, our Youth Services Coordinator for the Youth Services, will be conducting peer groups for the grandchildren. And we're hoping to have this program kick off during the month of November. But we think that it's a vital way for us to service our seniors. It's something that they've actually been asking for. And as I said, we're very excited that it's the first program that we're having with Senior Services and Youth Services. And as the Hyannis Youth and Community Center comes on, we're going to be looking for more opportunities for the divisions within the Community Services Department to work together.
Meanwhile, we want to give you plenty of heads up on a public hearing to be hosted by the Barnstable Recreation Commission coming up on Monday, October 6th.
The Commission wants to hear comments on a proposed no smoking ban on all town Barnstable beaches.
There are no scheduled meetings for Friday.
That will wrap up this edition of Barnstable Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Melissa Chartrand.
Have a good weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday. I'm Kevin Friel.